Sorry. I'll get that out of the way with early. It's contagious, so you can all yawn now at home. Crap. All right, so I made it. 100 days consecutively doing this. Woo! And you've been here for the ride. Well, I'll explain the last couple days. So, we all know this guy. Okay, so we all know this guy. But so I went down to the radio station because I normally do and go check on things. And the other day I found this. So you can see that. That's the door. Someone tried to pry the door open. Did a really, really energetic job of it too, if you can see. They really worked that. So I was like, well, thankfully I had done a good job securing the building. And there was deadbolts on the top and the bottom of the door, and the other doors had deadbolts, and it was quite secured. And I thought that was the end of it. I threw some stuff into cover the door up, a bunch of barrels and things so you couldn't get down there, and it was locked, and I just figured that's the end of it. And so the next day, I went back down to the station. This was yesterday. I went down to the station, and I immediately noticed when I walked in a bag at my feet. And I was like, what the hell? I knew this bag. I didn't put this bag here. This is bad. So this happened. I called the police because I said, hey, somebody got into the building somehow. I'm not sure how, but this wasn't here. So, guns drawn. I mean, that's what you do. Thank you to the CPD. They did a fine job. They were very nice and professional. But they basically cleared the building, just like you see on TV. Here's 4 guys with, literally one at a shotgun with the flashlight on the front, police, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like standing outside waiting. So they clear the building, and I go in, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is not the way it was when I left it. So it was pretty much ransacked. What I discovered was this. There was a broken window. Now, the thing that's so bizarre is the window is there. This is the after effect. I cut all the bushes down, and I had to board up the windows. But this was on the 2nd floor. I mean, so apparently, someone got the bright idea who they didn't get in the first time. They were determined. So they figured out a way. They moved the rain barrel to that little porch thing, climbed up there, smashed the window up with a rock, and got into the building. Now, I'm not sure how long they're in there for, but after having a little more time to look, a significant amount of time, because they cut they literally opened up where the electrical panel comes into the building. The power was turned off, so they didn't die. I'm glad I didn't find a dead body crisp in there, regardless of them stealing my shit. But they cut through the big copper wire, and now I'm just noticing all the things that are missing. They ransacked pretty much every room. The desks, the drawers, the stuff. So like my generator is missing, my walkie-talkies are missing, a couple laptops are missing, some equipment's missing. I think there's a guitar missing, the gold record's missing. Just stuff. And I won't be able to figure everything out because I didn't have an exact inventory of what everything was. So that's what I was dealing with all day today. I had to board up all the windows on the building. I had to secure the doors further. So, that's the way it goes. So, woo, winning. But, like I said yesterday, it is what it is. Life is life, and we just have to keep moving forward regardless of what speed bumps get thrown in front of us. Some days you're the bug, some days you're the windshield, and this was just a bug day. That's it. So we'll continue that momentum moving forward. best we can. So there you have it. So that's what I've been doing the last couple of days, dealing with that incident. No fun whatsoever. But we talked a little bit about the building. The building is sold. Well, it's not sold. Okay, it's in contract. It's in contract to be sold to a developer who will demolish the building, and they will put a 6-story apartment, 95-unit apartment there. No one wanted to buy the property because it was, weird. It was great for the radio station and the bar, but it was a weird space. It was designed weird because it was as the architect said, a Frankenstein. Because there was a building inside the building because there was a fire in 1972. So they just encapsulated the old building and built right on top of it. So you could see the fire damage and the missing part of the roof and everything is inside the actual building. It's very strange, believe me. But anyway, that's what its fate will be by the end of the year. Probably it'll be sold. Which again, it's all sort of part of the whole radio station's glorified, non-glorified, illustrious history of CD 101, 1025, 92.9, WWCD radio. And that's what it is. So I'm just living that. Living my best life. But I've got music and stuff to talk about. So I did shift a little bit. So I'm not doing anything if you haven't been here the last couple of days. A couple days ago, I stopped doing the What National Day Is out, and I also stopped looking at world history. It was too depressing, and it seemed less of what I was interested in. I mean, I did it for 3 months, but I just kept on searching, and I found enough websites now that I can go out and I can find enough stuff to fill the entire space up with music history, things that happened on this day. So from record releases and single releases to birthdays, bands, festivals, music, you name it. So that's what I've been doing. So there it is. I'm not sure yet, but I may try and get out of here and go see the See Here Now Music Festival in Asbury Park, New Jersey this weekend. I have not made that final decision yet, but I'm working on that, toward that goal, to go see about being on the beach and watching a music festival in New Jersey. I'm from there, so it's about 30 minutes from my ancestral home. So I would get to see my 93-year-old aged mother. So that's maybe a plan. We'll see. But anyway, I've got a couple pages of good stuff here, all sorts of things that happened on this day musically. And let's begin and educate ourselves on what happened on this day, September the 8th, throughout time when it came to music. We're going to go back to 1957. Oh, and it's also not in any particular order because it's multiple websites and I don't slide them into this chronological order, so I kind of jump a little bit. Sorry if that's hard to follow. 1957, country music. Country music. I know I don't normally talk about it. But country music, Bobby Helms makes his TV debut on the Ed Sullivan Show. The reason that we know him, he is the guy that sings Jingle Bell Rock. Now, I didn't realize that was a country song. That was why I was like, wait a second, that's a country song? Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. I guess it is. But I didn't know that was a country song. I thought it was more like a pop song, like a 50s pop song. But no, country. I guess that's a category for it, right? Country music for Jingle Bell Rock. Jingle Bell Rock, and it's country. I'm missing the disparity here. Just was there. 1962, Elvis, the king himself, releases his 7th studio album, and it is number 1 in the UK. But it only hits number 4 in the US. Not one of Elvis's most successful albums. They liked him in Europe a little bit better. On this day in 1973, the Allman Brothers start a 5-week run at number 1 for their 4th studio album, Brothers and Sisters. That's actually a pretty good album if you listen to it. I put a little bit of Allman Brothers on. I was like, yes, I like the Allman Brothers. They that's old Southern rock. That old country Southern fried rock right there. In 1973, Marvin Gaye tops the Billboard charts with his hit "Let's Get It On." Let's get it on. Now, Marvin Gaye went on to became a worldwide chart topper in multiple countries. 1979, Led Zeppelin releases their 8th and final studio album, In Through the Outdoor. It lands at number 1 in the UK, also in Canada, the US, and New Zealand. So In Through the Outdoor, very, very fine Led Zeppelin album, reaching top numbers across all the English-speaking countries. 1984, Mr. Stevie Wonder starts a 6-week run at number 1 in the UK singles. I Just Called to Say I Love You. It also went worldwide and hit the top of the charts in over 30 other countries, charting as number 1 in 30 other countries for singles. That's pretty good. 30 countries is pretty big if you think about singles for an artist, especially back in the 80s. And speaking of the 80s, 1987, Rush, Canadian band Rush, releases their 12th studio album, Hold Your Fire. It's top 10 in the UK and Canada, but it really doesn't do well in the United States. It only reaches number 13 on the charts, and it did not do as well as some of its predecessors. And it is a commercial failure in the music world for Rush, who at the time was a big star, to sort of release this 13th album. Charting is only there. Just mind blown, and not exactly what Geddy Lee wanted. And I've told my Rush story, so I don't need to repeat that because that was recently. If you hadn't heard it, it was basically getting arrested before a Rush concert. It happens, miscreant youth growing up in New Jersey, white punks on dope. What do you expect? That's what happens when you leave a bunch of kids to their own devices in New Jersey, growing up in the 80s. 1990, John Bon Jovi, a New Jersey guy himself. I played racquetball with him. I've told that story. That I played racquetball with John Bon Jovi once, just inadvertently. Belonged to the same racquetball club, and that was a thing. It was just another place to drink that wasn't a bar. You sweat and drink. So it was just, it wasn't bowling and it wasn't golf. It was racquetball. But anyway, John Bon Jovi, for his debut solo single, Blaze of Glory, reaches number 1 in the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and it was actually made specifically for the movie Young Guns 2. This song was designed for that, and then was released as a single. But I mean, that's interesting. So it was his debut solo single because it wasn't with the band, but he did it for the movie, and then they released it, and it became a hit. I mean, that's how that works sometimes. They do silly things like that, and you never know what's going to happen to it. Marvin Gaye was an early investor in Famous Amos Cookies. For some odd trivia I learned earlier today. Interesting. Now, why did you learn that today? What brought about that you learned about Marvin Gaye and good old Famous Amos Cookies today? Unless you were talking about Marvin Gaye or Famous Amos Cookies. One of those two things had to be the topic in that subject. Just saying. Going to a completely different musical genre, in 2001, Slipknot, heavy metal band Slipknot, they get their first number 1 album in the UK. The album was Iowa. Also in Canada, but only number 3 in the US. So we were like, it's all right. We like it, but we're just not going to move it to number 1. It's not happening. Good old Slipknot. In 2016, number one single UK was Closer by the Chainsmokers, and it was there for 4 weeks. There was something about Halsey with that too, but I didn't pay enough attention because I was like, Halsey, okay. Didn't really go there. In 2011, the jury selection for the involuntary manslaughter case for Michael Jackson is started for Dr. Conrad Murray. Remember, he was the one who was prescribing the boatloads of pills. Like, if you ever saw The People versus Larry Flint, when he's laid up after being shot in bed, and they're just dumping the pills. The doctor's coming, he's giving him wads of cash, and he's just opening up his magic bag and handing him like jars of pills. Apparently that's what's happening with Michael Jackson in real life, as art imitates life more often than not. The jury selectees were given a 30-page questionnaire that they had to fill out regarding what they knew about the case and about Michael Jackson. They were prejudiced against Michael Jackson for any reason. 30 pages. I was like, that's a lot of questions. Hundreds of questions per the jury selection. In 2007, Foxy Brown was sent to jail. Not to be confused with Foxy Cleopatra from Austin Powers, but Foxy Brown was sent to jail. Now, apparently, this is for assault twice. Assaulted a neighbor in 2006 while on probation for assaulting 2 nail workers in 2003. So apparently Foxy's got a little bit of an attitude. But yeah, sent to jail for 1 year in New York City for probation violation after, again, getting into this second altercation and assaulting a neighbor. So yeah, Foxy, what up with that, man? Anger management classes. You gotta, work on that just a little bit. It just seems crazy. 2005, the Kaiser Chiefs. Name I had not heard for a minute, and I was like, oh man, I got to play some Kaiser Chiefs, which I did. But the Kaiser Chiefs created a charity album, and they think it's the fastest charity album ever produced. 22 songs, and it was for Help, A Day in the Life. They produced it. It was recorded on this day, and they released it the next day. This had bands, the Kaiser Chiefs, Coldplay, Radiohead, Gorillaz, and others. But it was 22 tracks and literally recorded one day and released the next day for digital downloads. So either it sounded like crap, they had an entire team of people doing the producing on this, or the bands were really good and the guy who recorded it had a lot of tracks laid down right away. I don't know. That just seems really fast to produce something, to have it out in one day. I'm not sure who can do that. But someone did, apparently, because that's what they said. It was the fastest live produced album. I guess so. Oh, in 2005, Rod Stewart, who just basically, I guess, made some really weird crap with this virtual AI stuff. I read a little bit about it, but I was like, okay, I'm not going to pile on. All I did read was the woman who posted it regrets posting it, because now everyone's like hating on her. She's like, I just posted what I saw. It wasn't like I did it. Anyway, Rod Stewart was informed that he would need to pay and order to pay the Rio nightclub in Las Vegas $1 million as part of him backing out of a deal for a concert for a New Year's Eve show. Apparently, he had to have some minor surgery. His voice went out and he had some minor surgery, a little tumor removed on his throat. But then was fine for his tour a couple months later in June, and did 150 shows subsequently. So the casino was like, no, they're not buying that your voice is done and you were out. So he lost the case and was ordered to pay $1 million back to the casino. I mean, contracts are contracts there, Rod. You got to uphold your end of the deal. Apparently they weren't happy about that. In 2004, Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin was the guest of honor at a statue unveiling of a Welsh prince. I was like, okay. Apparently he has a home nearby and he donated a lot of money. So I was like, oh, well, that does it. It's the donated a lot of money part. I was like, somebody has a house nearby. Who cares? But it was that donated a lot of money. He made a substantial donation. I was like, oh, substantial. So he basically paid for this statue for some Welsh prince. They were like, hey, look, Robert Plant, come on. You can be the guest of honor for this thing. That's what happens when you donate lots of money. You get to be the guest of honor at things. Or they just make up awards entirely for you because you paid a lot of money for a said award. We actually had joked about doing that once, creating our own award ceremony, which I know someone who did do that. They created an award ceremony that was just kind of a fluke to get a job. They got the job, and then they continued doing the awards for years afterwards. But it was just sort of like, the International Brotherhood of Radio Personality, blah, blah, blah. And they just made the award for the guy. He made it for himself. And then subsequently got a job out of it, but then continued doing it for years later. So, I mean, there's something to be said about receiving awards and being the honorary person for that. In 2003, David Bowie does the first interactive concert. Now, I don't know if it was his first interactive concert or the first interactive concert. I didn't get that part vetted. But it basically said that he piped in a concert to 21 cinemas from Warsaw to Edinburgh. And then using ISDN lines, he was able to talk with the audience. They asked questions and made song requests at this concert. And an ISDN line, if you want to know, typically your regular phone is called a POTS, plain old telephone system. That's what POTS, it's plain old television system. But the ISDN was two paired wires. So it was a stereo. So it would be able to have send and receive capabilities of that. We used to use that when we had to do live broadcasts before the technology allowed us to use, cellular and everything else, but we had to have them installed. They're expensive, and anytime you had stuff done, like we would go, if we went like to the Virgin Islands and we did stuff for Jose Cuervo, they had these ISDN lines. You had to have a box at either end to basically send the information, receive the information, because it would packet it. So it would send it, receive it, send it, receive it, and it did it, it's the speed of light. So you didn't notice the delay very much. But that was the way to do it. You couldn't just do it on a regular phone because you couldn't get all the information you needed to send over if you were trying to do a talk over. So I could also hear you telling me instructions on the back end, like, hey, we're going to go to commercial in about 30 seconds. So after this song, the next song coming up is, so we could hear all the information on one ear, and then you could hear yourself on the other, and you could speak and they could hear you, what you could do live in the air, as well as you had an off-air mic that you could talk. So that's how I use an ISDN line, because it was basically multiple phone lines that had talkback. There you go. There's your knowledge and information of radio station technology for the day. All right, again, completely out of order. Sorry, because that's the way that works. In 2002, which this one was bizarre, and I did not look further into it, but Bruce Dickerson from Iron Maiden got a new job. His new job was as an airline pilot. And he was making $57,000 a year as an airline pilot. He was the first officer for Gatwick Airlines, Australis. And basically they flew like holiday travelers to like Portugal. And it was one of their destination. So he was the first officer on an airline, which I was like, okay, I guess. It just seems a little odd. You're like, hey, I know that dude used to be an Iron Maiden. He's flying the plane. Someone had to do it, right? Um, this man's in the news. 1999, Mr. Sean Puffy Combs and his bodyguard plead guilty to harassment, a lower and lesser charge than what they are originally charged with, harassment. Um, it's actually an assault in New York City where they assaulted a record executive with a champagne bottle, a phone, and a chair. So basically beat the crap out of this record exec and had to plead guilty to harassment as opposed to full assault. Must be nice to be able to get away with those things. Oh well, not forever apparently. Just saying. Again, 1997, Led Zeppelin once again, 29 years after their start, release the single Whole Lotta Love. And the reason they do this, it's from 1969, and it's basically to promote the release of the back catalog of Led Zeppelin. But they, basically released a single that had not been released from that album since 1969. Again, somebody bought the entire catalog and said, hey, I just spent $200 million on this thing. I need people to get back and listen to Zeppelin. So we're promoting this. Get out there and sell. Because we want to make that money. Someone's got to buy this stuff. Buy those downloads. Buy those singles. I need to get my money back. That's what happens. These guys do. They invest in them. They buy the catalog. We talked about what Disney owned one of the band the other day. Disney owns the catalog because they were the record label back then, and they got into the business of it because they still held the rights. They basically got all the catalog for like $10 million. I think it was it Queen? Something I was like, man, they got a lot. They got away with that one. I think it was Queen that they owned the rights to that. Must be nice. 1993, Mr. Kurt Cobain and the lovely Miss Courtney Love appear on the stage together in Hollywood. And they perform the song that they co-wrote, Penny Royal Tea. Now, everyone says that Courtney did not write whole Live Through This, that was written by Kurt Cobain. I don't know. I personally think that's a really good album. It's built for her, for the screamy voice and everything else. Back when Mr. Cobain was no longer with us, and there was all that, the Yoko Ono talk of Courtney Love did it and blah, blah, blah. We at the radio station stopped playing Courtney Love, the band Hole, for quite some time. I don't know if we ever went back to playing it. But she did have a show at the Newport Music Hall that I went to, and I will say that it was one of the better shows. It was, it was just screamy Courtney Love, but she put on a hell of a show. And, it's one of those things where if you listen to the album and you go see a show and it has that similar quality, but it's live, that's always, to me, sort of the best of the both worlds. You don't want it to sound exactly the same. You want it to sound live. You don't want it to be overproduced. But, if the artist that's there can perform and you can see that they're doing it live, it's not, lip synced. Not that some bands do that. Katy Perry. But it was definitely a good show for sure. 1974. Let's see, again, I'm going to jump and go cross and sideways and everywhere else. Joni Mitchell, along with Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, and the Beach Boys, performed a show in New York at Summer Salt. Very funny, playing words. Summer Salt Concert 74 in Roseville Raceway in Westbury. Up, I see the timer's ticking down. See, this time I saw it. So I can change cameras, and then I can click this one, and I don't have the thing fade to black. Let's see if I can reach over there and get it. There we go. Look at that. See, I didn't completely blow it that time. Not completely. And I'm back to this camera. Let me see what else. I had Was there a couple things here? There was birthdays. I think we're going into birthdays now. Are we in birthdays, or do I jump some other things here? Yep, we're going to birthdays. We can do deaths. There weren't a lot of deaths. The only deaths I had was Jean-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont. She wrote Beauty and the Beast. And that was a long-ass time ago. And the other person I only put down was God Save the Queen. Queen Elizabeth II died today, on this day. Good old Queen Elizabeth, the Queen. Changed the whole royal outlook because, people were like, all right, we're done with the royals. We're tired of giving you all the money. She lived to be 96. So, she hung in there. She wasn't giving up the whole queendom easily. All right, birthdays. Virginia Patterson Hensley. You probably know her more likely as Patsy Cline, born on this day. Her big hit song, Crazy, was written by Willie Nelson. I didn't realize that. I was like, wait, what? Yeah, Crazy, Crazy for Feeling. That was Willie Nelson. I was like, oh, all right, interesting. I could see Willie singing that song, in Old Man Willie voice. We talked about Willie last night when he played Farm Aid here in Columbus, Ohio, on this date in history yesterday. It was a whole big bunch of band people that played that show. That was a really good concert because I actually was there and remembered it. I was like, yes, I remember that. So it was a really good show. I remember seeing Willie. Ronald McKernan, also born on this day, 1945. He was the founding member of the Grateful Dead. Remember him as Pigpen. What's funny about this, it's not funny. I mean, he died. But while the band itself was experimenting with drugs and very much into that scene, he was not. He did not do drugs. He just drank. But he drank so much in excess that he actually died of liver cirrhosis. He died of alcoholism, which is odd because, again, while all the other band members were alive and well doing drugs, he drank himself to death. Who knew, right? But yeah, I was born on this day. Pigpen, founding member of the Grateful Dead. Also on this day, Kelly Gruncut of ELO, born on this day. Benjamin, I'm going to blow this one. Orzechowski. Orzechowski? Known to everybody as Ben Orr from the Cars. And he was from Lakewood, Ohio, because the Cars were from Ohio. People didn't realize that. So that's one of those very interesting sort of connections to Ohio. The Cars. Amy Mann, born on this day, said to be one of the best pop singers of our time by a couple of different publications. She was in the band Till Tuesday. Remember that song, Voices Carry? Amy Mann, that's a good song. I listened to that. I'm like, oh yeah, that is a really good song. Till Tuesday, Miss Amy Mann, born on this day. I'm going to blow this one too. 1987, Cameron Jabril Tamaz. Wiz Khalifa is born on this day. We all know Wiz Khalifa. Now, this is interesting because, again, I'm like, okay, is AI listening? Because we talked about Slipknot, the new whole pilot thing when it came to, that was Slipknot before, was over here. But anyway, it's Jay Weinberg, the drummer of Slipknot's birthday. Now, oddly enough, Jay Weinberg is the son of Max Weinberg. Max Weinberg is in Bruce Springsteen's band, the E Street Band. So, Bruce Springsteen, Slipknot. It must be an interesting reunion when father and son get together and talk about the road stories. How was your tour, son? Oh, great. Bruce was out there doing 4.5 hour show. How was your tour, Dad? Oh, we were out there and playing in those crazy those heavy metal kids. Strike that, reverse it. Max is the dad. He's with Bruce Springsteen. Jay's not. Sorry. You know, it gets confusing. It happens. Also born on this day, Jason Miller of Kasabian. Now, when we had Kasabian play, he had family come in because he's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The rest of the band's from England, but he actually was the American with the band. We had them play an outdoor show in May, and it was freezing cold. You know, making me one of those, it's like, oh, it's a beautiful day. It was so cold that we had a sold-out show outside at Kemba. And, yeah, it was just crazy. But Kasabian was such a great band. It was so nice to have these guys perform. But I remember his parents and his family came in because they were so close from Pittsburgh. And normally I think they had never been to the States to tour. And they came in for one of our shows. So his family came in to see the show. And it was very funny to get to meet his family. They did a nice big room for us. George Tickner, founding member of Journey, birthday today. Also, Brian Cole, 1942, from the band The Association. If you remember the band The Association, they did this song Windy. Everyone knows it's windy. Dun, dun, dun. Now, this is what I thought interesting, that he was in the music stuff. Peter Sellers, actor Peter Sellers, Jacques Cousteau, apparently was in bands. Because I was reading more about it, there was a bunch of times where he had like his birthday party and all these very famous musicians showed up. Sure, he was Peter Sellers, but he was also in like a couple of different bands that performed, and he got to like number 14 in the UK chart and a couple other things. So I was like, interesting. Peter Sellers, Pink Panther, Dr. Strangelove, all sorts of crazy stuff that Sellers did. So, but yeah, interesting to say the least for me. Nico Case, born today, the New Pornographers. We had them come down to the station. We've met Mr. Nico Case. Also born on this day was Richard the Lionhearted, and it's Bernie Sanders' birthday. So happy birthday to both Richard the Lionhearted, who's been dead for centuries, and Bernie Sanders, who's, sort of been the same way, apparently. Sorry. Oh, wait, and I knew there was other things. 1968, Led Zeppelin. See, no particular order. Sorry, just none. 1968, Led Zeppelin, their third gig ever, their third live performance ever, was in Denmark. And they did it with a band called the Beatniks. Also, a all-female topless go-go dancer band called the Ladybirds. I don't know why they had to throw that part in there, but apparently they did. So maybe it was just because it was a little titillating. 1968, the Beatles sing Hey Jude live on UK TV. It's the first single on their Apple Music label. The song comes in at just over 7 minutes. It becomes the first, it becomes number one in the US for 9 weeks, and it's the longest single on the charts ever for the Beatles as number one. So there you go. And then I talked about the two people that died. Jean-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont, Beauty and the Beast, and of course, Queen Elizabeth II. God save the Queen. That's that. There it is. That's the stuff. That's all the music stuff that happened. All those things, all the music things, the radio station things, everything else. There's still this. This still exists. If you go see it, go make comment about it. I will go look at it at some point. I just in a bit of a weird mood at the moment. So I'm just trying to get through that. Trying to deal with all that stuff that's going on. Just one of those days. But episode 100. So, woo, champagne. Yay. Did everyone enjoy the full moon last night? I hope you did. It was quite exciting. We did not get the lunar eclipse. Apparently, you cannot see it in the Americas because it was the exact opposite side of the world. So Japan saw it, and it was awesome for them. But we didn't. We just got a really cool full moon. I was like, wait, what, why is it not happening? Oh, apparently we're on the wrong side of the planet today. Who knew? That's the way that goes. Celestial things, I can't get everything right. I just make this stuff up half the time anyway. No, not even close. So I may or may not go to this music festival this weekend. We'll figure it out. We'll see. I'm not really sure at the moment. See how I'm feeling and what else is going on. So that's what's happening. Anything else? Any questions? Any comments? Any concerns? I'll try and get a new end card at some point, so it's not just this. I'll get some sort of end card made, an intro, do a little editing and everything else. So that's all I can do. It's about all my capacity is at this point. It really is. As always, it's a pleasure having you here and serving you and enjoying my time with you, and appreciate you being here and sitting through my silliness. Oh, I did get I saw my PayPal approved my ID today at my bank, so I am hopefully going to be able to launch Randsanity's, the t-shirt site, here before too long. I know I've been yapping about this now for 100 friggin' days. I get it. I know. Just put your money where your mouth is. Get your shit done. I know. I'm trying. It's been a struggle. It's just a struggle. All of it. Everything. All right. Well, I'm just going to let you go. You have a lovely rest of your night. Have an amazing week if you don't come back and I don't see you. We'll talk again soon. That's all we can do, right? Thank you. Be well. As per usual, we will in fact fade to black. Bum.